So I want to tell you a story about Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, actually two stories, and it's brought in a speech of the Lubavitcher Rebbe, and talking about what the purpose of Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai was. So there's a story about Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai that he had a lot of pupils. He had pupils, and one day one of his pupils went outside of Israel. He had something to do, and he came back a rich man. He came back a rich man. He got a business investment or whatever. Anyway, with very great ease, he made a fortune, and he came back with all this money. So Rabbi Shimon immediately noticed that all of his pupils were sort of like very, very impressed by this wealth that he had. And Rabbi Shimon said, "Oh, I see you're very impressed by what he did." And the people said, "Well, so he said, okay, I want to show you something. You want to get wealthy?" I said, why not? So he took him over to this big valley. It seems that they say that it's the valley right next to the place in Miron, where Rabbi Shimon passed away. But there's different opinions. Anyway, so a valley, you ever see a valley? A valley is a big, huge place. It's like you stand on a mountain and there's a big valley and there's other mountain. Whatever it was, a big valley. So he goes to this valley and he says, "Valley, valley, fill up with gold coins." All of a sudden, blink, 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 the whole thing filled up with gold coins. They saw it was gold coins filled up. And he said to the pupils, "Anyone who wants, take whatever you want. You don't have to go outside of Israel." Right? He had to go travel outside of Israel to get it. And I don't want you to waste any time, going outside of Israel and working and investing and this and this. Anyone who wants to take. But anyone who does take, it'll be removed some portion of yours in heaven, in the world to come. Now, these pupils, they didn't really place that much importance on going to heaven, even though it's important to go to heaven. I mean, it's like, like going home, right? You go back home, you want your house to be there. Even though your house is not the most important thing in the world, serving God is the most important, but you want to have a house. Same thing after a person dies, so a certain amount of time, he goes up to heaven. So he said, anyone who takes from this will be removed apart from heaven. So nobody took. Nobody took from this. Okay. And that's the end of the story. What happened to all the gold coins? Obviously, they went away because nobody found these gold coins afterwards. But after the pupils refused, but the Torah doesn't, the Midrash, whatever, doesn't tell us that the coins went away. It just says that, that's the end of the story. They didn't want it, the coins. And then Rabbi Shimon said, okay, let's go back to learning. Then there's another story, which the Midrash brings right after that, about another rabbi who's called Rabbi Shimon Bar Chalafta, who lived a couple hundred years something after Rabbi Shimon. He was one of the Amoras. Rabbi Shimon Bar Chalafta was tremendously poor, and I guess his wife used to complain about it. So one day he went out into the field, and he asked God for some money, something. And a hand came out from heaven with a diamond in it and said, okay, now you got all your money. Go. So he goes back home with this diamond to his wife, big smile on his face. And she says, what are you smiling about? He said, what am I smiling about? Take a look at this. Huh? So she looks at the diamond and she said, where'd you get this from? Where did you get this diamond from? So he said, went out in the field, prayed to God, hand came from heaven, gave me the diamond. This is a gift from the Lord, the Almighty Creator, to us. Why aren't you happy? Why aren't you happy? So she said, give it back. I said, oh, come on. Why should I give it back? We're rich. This is what you wanted your whole life. I said, listen, in the future, after you die, you're going to go up to heaven, and all the other great rabbis are going to be sitting there on tables, and your table is going to be missing a diamond. Give it back. And so he said, okay, I guess, okay. So he went up to heaven. He went out into the field, and he said, okay, God, listen, what can I do? My wife doesn't want the diamond. So take it back. So a hand came out from heaven, and it took the diamond back. Huh? And it says in the Midrash that the second miracle that God took it back was bigger than the first miracle. because God only gives. He gives life, he gives, and God doesn't take back. That the people die is because God just stops taking. We can call it taking, Hashem Natan, Hashem Lakach, but it's like God took it back. He doesn't, God only gives. And that God thing came from heaven and it took it back, that's a bigger miracle. Oh, I got to tell you. So the Rebbe asked the question, 1 second. By Rabbi Shimon, the money disappeared. So God also obviously took it back. And this happened a few hundred years before the miracle of Shimon Bar Chalafta. So why doesn't it say by Rabbi Shimon that the money disappeared and that was a bigger miracle? Why doesn't it say that? It says because the fact is the money did disappear. And the fact is that it was a big miracle. But that's not at all the thing of Rabbi Shimon. Rabbi Shimon's thing is not to do miracles. Rabbi Shimon's whole thing is to bring godliness into the world. It happened to be that with Rabbi Shimon, godliness came into the world in form of money, and it went away. How the money went away, that it disappeared, it was a miracle. That's Rabbi Shimon is not concerned with miracles. Rabbi Shimon is concerned with only one thing: manifesting godliness in the world. He brought godliness into the world in order to convince his pupils not to be so concerned with money. It was only a means to that end of inspiring his pupils to understand that Torah is more valuable than money. And so that's the whole thing of Rabbi Shimon, just to bring godliness into the world, to make it manifested in the world. And the biggest miracle is going to be, even bigger than the God taking things away, is that people are going to want it. People are going to be vessels, and that they're going to want this revelation of Mashiach. That's what the Zohar does. When a person learns the Zohar properly, he has a tremendous thirst and desire that Hashem should be revealed here in this world. That's what Chassidut does. That's what Chassidut does. There's no danger of leaving this world and wanting to be like Narav and just being spiritual. And this world is so false, you just want to be spiritual. No. To realize this world is false and it's terrible, much more terrible than we can possibly imagine. But we have the ability to change it with the Torah ideas of Rabbi Shimon, to bring it into the world. That's the purpose of Rabbi Shimon, and that's the purpose of Lag BaOmer. Have a good day. God willing, tomorrow we'll continue in our quest for Mashiach. Now, have a good day, everyone. Shalom Uvracha.
Thank you.
See you tomorrow.
See you all tomorrow.
Thank you.